The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here. Sabu, sabu, step aside for the game changer.
The game changer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special edition of Broken Not Shattered. The game changer. We're here to change the entire game for all our audience back here in the United States, those in the Far East, in Qatar, my folks and audience in the UK, back in Nigeria, and any parts of the world where you are. Welcome to this special edition of Broken Not Shattered. This month is Autism Ally Month. It's actually, hold on. It's Autism Awareness Month. And you can see I've got my Autism Ally shirt on. I'll tell you a story about this in a few minutes. And what does that mean? Autism is, ASD is a spectrum disorder that you must know someone, at least in today's world, that either is a person with autism or a caregiver or a member of their family or loved one is being impacted by this disorder. But for many, they think it's a disability. For me, I think it's a different ability entirely. And why is this course so important to me? I'll tell you a little story. So I was working in Washington, D.C. Most of you who are very close to me must have heard this story before. Working in Washington, D.C., doing very well in what I was doing. And someone who had made a huge impact in this industry in the last 15 years kept on approaching, and for me to be part of their structure. I was like, I'm comfortable where I am, got my 6 figures going on, I don't need any hassle, I'm good to go. So I traveled to London to see my family and friends on that trip. Flying back into the United States, guys, I had 2 encounters. One, I had great news when I got to London to see my older brother, that my nephew, who is a person with autism, has done so well and found himself in a program at Cambridge University. Completely blown away. I know his story when he was a young lad, what he had to go through, the effort his mom and his dad had put in and family put in to make sure that he just became this great guy and not have any kind of struggles in life, pretty much helping him attain independence. And so for me, that was big. It was a happy moment for me. And then as I got on the plane, I was flying back. Normally I try to sleep on my way back in, so I come in rested. But this particular day, I found myself watching a movie. And the movie I watched was called The Accountant. If you haven't watched it, please, I recommend that you watch it. And by the end of the movie, I was completely blown away. Ben Affleck, who's the main character in the movie, is a person with autism. And you see the impact of how adaptive technology, his struggle with his social, emotional struggles that he has in the society, but how he was able to overcome them all. And at that point in time, I was so touched. Now, those who know me always know that I get most of my inspiration when I fly. And that was it for me. I came back into Washington, D.C. I reached out to the company, and they hired me instantly as their CEO. So I represent that community. I am big, and everything I do right now is driven towards impacting lives of persons with autism. My guest today is someone who has also lived that life herself. She has gone through the path. She has been a caregiver at a very interesting age, and she has a story and a half to share. Without wasting much of your time, let me bring in our guest today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for all your support. You're always there on Instagram. You're always there on YouTube. And those of you who follow us on Facebook, thanks, thanks, thanks. Very soon, we're going to find a way to just compensate everyone to say thank you in a very special way. But let me bring in my guest today. She is Miss Obi, based in New York, and she has a story and a half to tell. Hey, Obi, welcome to Broken Not Shattered. How you doing, girl?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Great. You can see my entry this time was something else, right? I was feeling all I was feeling gingered up.
Your intro gingered everybody. We're ready.
I was so gingered up for today's show, but my entry was like, no. I've been playing that song all day, and it's the whole mindset of a game changer. And
Yes.
you are what I could call a game changer. You have a story. First time you told me the story, I was so moved, and the rest is history. Here we are right now on
Yes.
Broken Not Shattered. Introduce yourself to our audience. For those who don't know you, we have people all over the world listening.
Hello, everybody. My name is Obi Nwogbe. I am based in Brooklyn, New York. I am an author now that I have a book, a public speaker. I'm a communication specialist, and I'm also a business owner. I own 2 businesses here in New York. And most importantly, of everything that I do, I am a caregiver to my only sibling who is autistic. He has cerebral palsy, and he's also nonverbal.
Wow. For those who might not understand what nonverbal is, the terminology nonverbal, do you want to explain it or do you want me to take it? Good.
I mean, pretty much nonverbal means that he doesn't speak. For in my case, my brother, he understands when you speak to him. He actually, because we grew up in Nigeria partly, so he does understand Igbo. So, but he can't speak back. So that's really what nonverbal means in a nutshell.
So the communication, pretty much, language is a problem, is a challenge. And so we'll talk about all the other opportunities that are out there when persons are not nonverbal. Um, let's talk about early intervention. Early intervention when it comes to the autism spectrum disorder, it's very, very important. Uh, in my own language, in my own world and understanding, I believe that early intervention would definitely help you to save the life of your child. The earlier you start to create the intervention, the better chance the child has, or your loved one has, in actually do much better with the challenges they face. What's your thought on that?
Right. So, like you mentioned earlier, ASD, also known as autism spectrum disorder, is a developmental disability that is characterized by a lack of social interaction. So, even when I say my brother is nonverbal, those are also one of the symptoms that most people with autism have. Also, behavior. Their behavior in public could be different. They use their hands a lot. So when you see like a kid with autism, their parent might give them a toy to play with to keep them busy. They could be a little bit restless, as some of the patterns that you see in a child that's autistic, or their attention span is really short. So this is where early intervention comes in. So for parents, I'm not that much difference in age with my brother, but I know my mom did actually try to, at the time when we were younger, try to put him in a special school that was actually helping him to speak a little bit. So I remember at a young age, I remember my brother was able to say mommy, daddy, thank you, up until that was going well, up until my dad yanked us back to Nigeria and he lost all of that. And my brother that was learning to say those words couldn't say those words anymore.
Wow.
So early intervention is necessary, is key. And also some parents might be in denial that
That's
their
a big
kid
one,
is
isn't it?
sick.
That's a very big one. Parents being in denial and not coming to
Right.
terms to accept. Yes.
Yeah, so most parents could be in denial that their kid is autistic, but seeking help early and sticking with the help. In my situation, if my dad didn't take us back to Nigeria, where there was no such help at the time, my brother would be verbal today. He wouldn't be autistic, unfortunately. So early intervention is definitely necessary.
We're going to come back to your story because I think that's a very important part of why you're actually here. Now, you said you started at a very young age to step into the role of a caregiver. You only have one sibling, that's your brother, and he's a person with autism and nonverbal, but you have always been by his side. Tell our audience, because I know someone is watching, someone might watch later on, what's going on, how did you become this caregiver? Because the role of a caregiver is very, very important in the life of the person who they'll be looking after. Tell us your story.
Right. So, just to break down a little bit about who is a caregiver, right? So, there are two types of caregivers. So, you have your informal caregiver and your formal caregivers. Your formal caregivers are like your nurses that get paid to do the job. Your
That's
informal caregivers are people like me, families, siblings that actually have to step into this role. So, as long as I can remember, even at a very young age, even if it wasn't physically taking care of my brother, I was an advocate for, someone, oh, he hasn't eaten today. Can you make sure you feed him? Or he hasn't had a shower today. So I was an advocate. So to me, at that young age, I was already a caregiver. And, hence the title of my book, which is Sibling Caregivers, How to Have a Life, Be Encouraged, and Live Stress-Free. I've been a caregiver for my brother as long as I can remember, even though my book is titled Sibling Caregivers. Anybody can benefit from it because, like, we all are going to be a caregiver to somebody at some point in our life, be it a spouse, a parent, a grandparent, a family. So the book also touches on the importance of being prepared to be a caregiver, because yes, a family member could be the best caregiver there is, but an unprepared or a forced caregiver can end up being a bad caregiver, right?
right.
So, being having the discussion in the families and being prepared to take on such a role is important. The reasons I wrote the book, because people ask me, why did I write the book? I mean, I will say it's obvious why I wrote the book, but it took me the book took me about 5 years to write, and I'm going to tell you why. When I finished my first manuscript, I sent it in to my editor, and my editor, reading it, said, "Well, Obi, if I'm asking this question, viewers are going to want to know too, or readers are going to want to know too. You don't talk much about your parents. What's going on?" I'm like, okay, let me shelve this book. So I put it away for 5 years. The reason I did that was because, in African families and Nigerian families, we don't air our dirty laundry. We're supposed to figure it out on our own, even when we're not figuring it out. So I wasn't really ready for what might be, or what has been, some kind of backlash for me releasing the book. So it was therapeutic for me to write it. I had to write it. And also at the beginning stages of my caregiver journey, it was a lonely place. There wasn't information readily accessible, still really isn't. So I wrote it in hopes that other sibling caregivers will find it. Anybody that has any kind of caregiver responsibility in any capacity will find it and know that they are not alone in this journey.
Wow. They are not alone in this journey, and that is so true. How old were you when you actually started? I mean, when you actually took up the role formally as the caregiver for your brother? How old were you? And what has that done for you?
Say it again.
You had to give up some things, obviously, to
Yeah.
get that assignment.
Yeah, so I want to say I was solely my brother's caregiver at the age of maybe 21, 22, when I brought him back to the States. Thankfully, the only thing that needed to be done for him was to renew his passport, to bring him back. So the money that, my dad paid for the ticket and all that, my dad was very hesitant to let me take on his son. But I had to remind him, like, Dad, you're not home. You're an attorney. You're never there. The house helps don't do much. So let me take him. I remember my first semester when I brought him back, I was still at Montgomery College at the time in Maryland, 2-year college. I actually dropped out that semester because I was flunking my classes. I couldn't focus. And these are the kind of sacrifices that caregivers, have to make. So I dropped out that semester, got myself together and went back, so, it's part of the journey. It got to a point where I had to accept that this is the new role that is in my life. My friends at the time were understanding with my new role as in being like a caregiver at this point in my life. So social life was gone at that age. So yeah.
Wow. Go ahead.
Yeah. And, so like, for me also growing up with my brother, we created a very strong emotional bond, right? So even though he's nonverbal, I know when something is wrong. I know when something is not quite right with him. So those are the things that only a family could really easily pick up on.
Right.
Right. And so, like I mentioned, it took me it took me a while to really fully accept the role. And when I say it took me a while, it took years. And only the past year only the past year that I started going to therapy, I had no idea how much all of that had affected me throughout my life, right? So yeah, so these are the things that I want like caregivers out there to be prepared for. If you are caring for a parent, a sibling, just know that you have to take care of yourself. You have to ask for help. When it comes to caregiving, a lot of immigrant families, Nigerian Americans, Indian Americans, Chinese, like we don't ask for help because in our community, we're supposed to do it ourselves. And I did that for a very long time till I had my brother had a case manager who happened to be from Umuahia. And he said to me, I see how you're struggling with school and trying to take care of your brother. You can actually quit your job and get paid for this, right? I said, no, how can? No, why? It's my brother. Why would I want to get paid for it?
Right.
So he kind of talked me into it, gave me the ropes. He was like, yeah, so you're already doing the work. Instead of having like a nurse, like a CNA or whoever come in, you get paid for it. You're already doing it. I'm like, So honestly, that was how I was able to transfer to Howard University and graduate because,
Wow.
work, trying to make an income and take care of him. It was a lot. There were plenty of times that I'm rushing back from school, and by the time I get back, about Metro Access, like the transportation for people with disability, they would have left him outside and gone.
Wow.
I had one of my neighbors one time call me crying. She said, oh my God, they left him outside. I don't know what to do. I said, please, can you take him? I'm almost home.
Wow.
There was a time I came back, Metro Access, because they got there before me. Metro Access left a note on my door that my brother was at the police station.
Wow.
So I had to go get him, so it's been a journey. So anybody that's caring for anybody in any capacity, I understand what you're going through. I empathize, but I know that my book will actually help give you all the tools that you need to be prepared. The chapter.
We're gonna talk about your book. We'll talk about the book in a few minutes anyway. It's part of what I want to do today. Just listening to your story, I'm asking myself the sacrifice that you had to make and the sacrifice that most parents make just to be there for their loved ones that have this disorder. It's a lot, but there is also what I've noticed just working in this area for the last 1 year or so as the chief executive officer for an organization that focuses strictly on this, is that there's a disparity of those who have and those who don't have. Families that have access to resources, their loved ones seem to turn out better. And families who don't have access to resources, their loved ones, in most cases, might not be in a better place in life than others, right? And that's why my organization, Autism Ally, is very focused on providing resources for those who don't have. Um, Let me ask you a question, and I'm going to ask this question, and then you're going to address it when you come back from our break. Yeah? Removing him from America and taking your brother to Nigeria was what you felt was what set him back,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? There are families in Nigeria who have persons with autism. The stigma could be very high out there. They don't talk about their loved ones. They're so ashamed to even admit or embrace the fact that their child um, does have this disorder, because in that culture, and in most other cultures too, it might be seen as a taboo or something you did wrong. Who did this? Was it her or was it him? You know. Um, but in your case, your brother went back to Nigeria. Why did your father feel it was important to take him or to take you guys back to Nigeria? Don't answer that question. We'll be back in a few minutes.
All right.
I'm broken. Welcome to the special edition of Broken Not Shattered. Your host Ike. My guest today is Obi, who has this compelling story of how she became a caregiver at a very young and tender age for her brother, who's a person with autism. Her brother is nonverbal, but that is the only sibling she has. A few minutes ago, I just asked her, "How does stigma work here?" Obi.
Yeah. So your question was on why did my dad feel the need to take us back to Nigeria at the time? My dad had graduated from law school and he wanted to practice in Nigeria. So of course you have to go to law school in Nigeria at least for a year. I don't know if they still do that,
You do?
but okay, they do. So, but also at the time, my mom, because at this time they're separated, right? So at the time, my mom, being a single parent, was still trying to manage on her own. She
Okay.
had dropped us off either at the babysitter and was about to get on the bus to go to school or to go to work. And from my understanding, she collapsed. She passed out due to
Wow.
stress. And she ended up 4 months at the hospital with an aneurysm. I know people don't usually come back from aneurysm.
Right.
So during that time was when my dad took us back to Nigeria.
Wow.
So was it necessary? No, but I guess he wanted his kids, and he wasn't on good terms with his wife at the time. So at the end of the day, and that's another important issue. So uh, when there's a kid with autism in a family, it can break up families, right?
Mhm.
Because of the stress that comes with taking care of the kid, and also not accepting that this is what is going on with the kid. So and I really want to hope that at this time, we're talking about 2023, there's more education about this. There's more to read up online about it.
Mhm.
So it's not so much of, it's still going to be difficult, but at least there's some kind of understanding. So parents need to make sure that as much as you taking care of your kid with the autism, or if you have other kids as well, try to take time out for yourself and your spouse, because if not, the stress alone can actually tear families apart easily.
Most families have seen this has been a very strong pressure point and a test on their relationships. In most cases, for some reason, the men find it very difficult to embrace um, the whole issue of their child being a person with autism. Um, but we'll discuss that on another day because of the sake of time. I heard what you said about the importance of taking out time for yourself. Your book is Sibling Caregiving, How to Have a Life. So, how did you now get to the point of having a life, Obi?
or try to have a life.
or try to have a life.
No, I mean that
There's a mother watching right now. There's a mother watching right now. A parent watching, a caregiver somewhere watching and saying, "I'm so consumed by just going through the whole process of taking care of my loved one that I need some kind of help." Where does the self-care come into it?
You have to ask for help. If you don't ask for the help, people are not going to know to help you. And if you do ask for the help, people are so willing to help you. All my friends became brother sitters, like, and I must say, and it wasn't the best thing that I did at the time. I was young and I wanted to party. Mm. I will. My brother knew how to. Okay, before we even get to that, right?
Yeah.
I was still working before I could even get him in a day program because we had to pay rent. I used to work at Home Depot at the time. I asked for the 4 a.m. shift. My brother will be sleeping and I'll go to work at 4 a.m. My breakfast break was at 7. By that time he's waking up. I'll come back, give him a shower, feed him, and head back out to work. Pray to God, pray to God that nothing happens, and nothing did. But sometimes when I came home in his quest trying to, I guess, help do the dishes and he didn't know how, he left the water running and the house will be flooded.
Wow.
So, yeah. These are all the things that I had to, deal with at the beginning stages of my caregiver journey till after maybe 9 years or so. Um, it was looking like, okay, Obi, you need to let go and let him be with in a community living facility
Right.
with
Right.
people like him. That was the biggest decision of my life. I called my dad. I was crying. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And he was like, you have to do what's best for you and your brother. And I remember the first day I took him to where he now lives. When we dropped him off, one of my friends went with me. My brother literally ran out the house with no shoes, running after the car. I said, "Oh, again, no, we're done." I said, "Come, come, come, we're going." I packed all his stuff. I'm crying. He's crying. I packed all his. I said, "Let's go." They said, "No, that is not how it works. You have to leave and don't come back for 2 months."
Wow.
So he can get used to.
Used to not seeing you and not having you around
Yeah,
because he's been so used to you being around all this time.
yeah,
And now he's trying to attain some level of independence for himself.
independence.
So
Yeah,
he has to be by himself. Wow. I bet you that was just so difficult for you.
that
Just
was that was
listening to you alone, I'm trying to hold back not having teary eyes because I can imagine.
that was so hard. That was so difficult. I don't know. I had fear. I had fear that led to guilt for something that I didn't do. I was confused. Thankfully I wasn't in school at the time. I would have dropped out again. But it was a hard journey, but it was rewarding at the end of the day. Like now, when I go to his community living, I pick him up. We spend the weekend. I drop him off. It's like he doesn't even know me anymore. Like it's like,
He's
okay,
so,
bye.
he's so used to his environment,
Yeah,
right?
he's so used to them, but like, bye, I'm good. So, but it took a while to get there. It took a while, and it took
What would you say to the parent or the mother or the loved one who needs to know that it's okay to let go? It's okay to live your life. It's okay for some self-care.
Yeah. So my advice to anyone out there, parent, sibling, whoever that's taking care of a loved one is don't feel don't guilt trip yourself. Don't don't feel ashamed to ask for help. These facilities and resources are in place to really help you as a caregiver. So utilize them. If you don't know where to find the resources, you have your social services, you have agencies like Ike's. Ask questions, reach out. There's a lot of resources out there that a lot of people don't know, but it will take some research. So please don't guilt trip yourself, even if it means at one point when my brother was still living with me, I found out there's something called respite. So
Yes.
with
Yes.
yeah,
Respite care. Yeah.
respite care. So I'm like, I haven't taken a vacation in a long time. I need a vacation.
Yes.
So we're like, oh, there's respite care. You
Right.
can drop him off at this house for like however long you're gonna be. Guys said, are you serious? Okay,
Yeah.
come, let's go. So, those are the things that I found out. Or the respite care could also have somebody come to the
Come
house
to the house and give you time,
and
give you
give
some
me time
downtime
off.
to yourself,
Yeah.
just to for you to really get yourself
Yes.
together.
Yes.
It's so necessary. And for those of you who are listening, my organization, Autism Ally, we do that. We provide several different kind of services. One of our services is respite care or respite services, where we allow caregivers to go into the family and just give the family a break of some sort, or in some cases, take the loved one who has the disability out of the family so they can
Yeah.
get some fresh air and have
Yeah.
a great life of their own. It's all about trying to support one another. And if you don't have the resources, just reach out to us at autismally.org, and we have resources available through donations given to us by our donors all over the world, just to be a support to the likes of what Obi must have gone through at that young age.
Yeah.
Wow, Obi. But the Bible says that all things work together for good for those who love God. Even when we go through those challenges and tough times, we don't understand them fully. But I've come to learn in life that everything works out for our good. Now, here you are now. You have a story to tell. You are now an author of a book that is doing very well. And this book can be found anywhere where books are sold. If you don't have a copy, reach out to us. If we can get you a copy, we'll try and get a copy to you. Full disclosure, Obi is going to be one of our speakers in this year's Uplift, which is an annual event my organization puts out for caregivers and persons with disability here in Washington, D.C., in the Maryland area. So if you are available, it is May 16th from 9 a.m. to 3:30 and 9 a.m. to 12:30 in the afternoon. So just come out and be part of what Autism Ally is doing to support the loved ones and people who have and persons who have disabilities, like Obi's brother. Obi, you have the last word. What do you want to tell anybody or anyone out there this afternoon?
Okay, so I wrote my last word down, right? So you mind if I read it a little bit?
Please read it.
So my last word really is I hope that my story with my brother or inspires anyone that is a sibling caregiver or anyone playing a role of a caregiver in any capacity. I hope our story erases the stigma surrounding disabilities. I hope this book provides you with the tools you need to thrive in your caregiver responsibilities. I also hope the book reminds you that you are not alone in your journey as a caregiver. And even if you're not a caregiver, I hope that you can pass it on to someone who needs it.
Well said. I couldn't have said it better. And one of our audience just wrote this, and I think I should read it out to you. I must say, you are a very courageous and determined woman. God bless your heart. As a former caregiver, it can really impact one mentally and emotionally. Thanks for sharing your story. Obi,
Yeah.
I know we didn't get to the issue of stigma as I wanted us to talk about it, but that's fine. We'll have you again, and we'll have clips of you speaking at our event in the next couple of weeks when you come down to Maryland. Thanks for making out time to be our guest today. This is very, very, very dear to my heart, this issue. I have a lot of friends. My oldest brother, who is very, very dear to me, has a son, great guy, who has this disability, or what I now come to call a different ability, because they are very creative. They have their mindsets are like it's like a genius. He can just name any date in history, and my nephew will tell you off the back what happened that date. Unbelievable. I have a degree in history, and I can't mention all those dates that this young fellow can just rattle on. I have a friend of mine. Her son knows everything on the mathematic table. They're just such a creative mind, and God has given them.
Those are usually considered savants. Those are like, I have a gentleman that goes to daycare with my brother. All he needs you to tell him is the date of your birth, not the year, and he will tell you what day you were born. I didn't know I was born on a Monday. This man told me I had to go look it up. I'm like, oh my god!
Wow. Can you imagine that? And after this, I'm going to find out my own date, the day I was born, because my birthday is around the corner. So, well, this is just a great time. I'm glad we can have a laugh about it and just enjoy. This is Autism Awareness Month. If you're out there, you want to donate, this is a great organization, Autism Ally. .org. Just go to the website. You see our QR code. Whatever you donate goes 100% towards to the families that we actually take care of. Obi, thanks for having us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's say goodbye to our great host, guest today, Miss Obi from New York. Thank you, Obi. See you soon. And now Obi is gone. If you want to buy her book, please make out time to do so. I'm taking a few minutes because this is something that's very dear to me. Wherever you are, thank you for supporting. Thank you for being there. Thank you for the relationship that you have with persons with these disabilities. Like I said again and again, Autism Ally Group is one of the many out there, but we are determined to impact lives. Our slogan is very straightforward: advancing inclusion and impacting life. On that note, I'm going to say my goodbye to all our loved ones, our guests, wherever you are in the world. Please subscribe to all our socials. We need that subscription. Like, and let us keep, and then share with your family and friends about what we're doing here on this great platform, Broken, Not Shattered. In our three famous words: love, grace, and peace. See you guys as soon as possible. I think I'll be back here next week, Sunday. I'm going to get Obi back. I think Obi has overstayed this vacation. And this is my host now, Obi. Obi, wherever you are, you're watching, you need to come back. See you guys.